Some of the content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really
just. I love stories like this because it's
evolved to someone scared to death. Yeah, that's a real thing. Yeah, there are countless stories that you
shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the JFK assassination limo. Real.
Good evening, everybody. You're in the right place at the right time. From the mistake on the lake, deep within the great American Rust Belt, this is T3TV. Alongside my faithful co-host, Steve Buddha Gibson.
What's up?
And back in the saddle, out yonder near Altoona, Pennsylvania, my good friend Gary Nagel.
Good evening.
So, gentlemen, how's it going? What's new? What's shaking in your world?
Not much. I fell asleep on my dog before we started this.
Oh, you were oddly quiet. Like typically, there's quite a bit of shit talking before we start, and that was none present tonight. So I'm sure it'll commence during the broadcast.
Yeah, just exhausted. I worked outside all day, and I had to wear pants like all week because the flies are like biting like crazy. So it's like 95 degrees. Just super fucking hot, so I just been exhausted when I get home.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to wear pants.
Yeah, that's the worst part of that story.
Yeah. So Gary, how's the move going? Are you pretty much done?
Yeah, pretty much. I would be done if I didn't take a week off and go to Florida for a friend's like bachelor party at his beach house. So like the last week just hasn't existed for me, so I'm all behind a week on everything.
Did you So you spent a week down there. You go to the beach a lot, or what?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like on this like canal, his beach house. And there's like a pool and hot tub there, and so one day we went to a beach, and this other time we went to like Shark Tooth Bay or something. Beach with like black sand and a bunch of shark teeth and shit. I don't know, just screwing around like that. A bunch of couple stuff and whatever. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, you had a good time then.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah, nothing new over here really. Just doing the same stuff, different week.
Pants, no pants.
Yeah.
Where are we at that?
Always pants.
Oh,
you know, I only will wear shorts once I get home from work. It's kind of like, like some people wear pajamas or yeah. I'm a shorts, basketball shorts and t-shirt kind of guy, and I'll do that even throughout the winter too. No socks. You know, once I get home, I'm in my domain. So
yep, pants off, checked out for the day, put on some basketball shorts.
Yep, that's pretty much how it is. So but I'm excited. I think I'll finally be able to get out to the lake this weekend, so it should be good times. All right, well, let's get into some news here. If I can find my mouse. I think it died. Where are we at? All right, there we go. All right, so this is a strange one out of Minnesota. I don't know if you guys heard this. I saw this on the news the other night, and I was like, I need to tell this to everybody else. But invasive football-sized goldfish found in Minnesota Lake. Have either of you heard this story yet?
No.
Of an invasive large goldfish?
Yeah, so the tiny goldfish that you pick up at the pet store for a few cents might not look like an environmental threat, but they can grow into a huge problem if you set free in lakes or ponds, mainly because they can grow to be surprisingly huge. Burnsville, Minnesota, which is south of Minneapolis, drew viral attention to the global issue when it posted pictures on social media of some of the whoppers that were caught during the ongoing survey of fish in Keller Lake. The city urged residents not to release their unwanted pet fish. They caught 10 goldfish last week and another 18 this week. Each was more than a foot long, with the largest being 15 inches long. Burnsville Natural Resource Specialist Caleb Ashling told CNN that the city partnered with the neighboring Apple Valley and the company Carp Solutions to find out how many goldfish are in the lake. But if you look at this thing, it is huge. If you guys Google it right now, but yeah, these goldfish are like the they're the size of a football. But I guess I never realized that they could grow that big.
Do they have large talons?
No, they have fins. They're fish. We're in for a whopper tonight if you're this out of it.
That was a Napoleon joke.
I got it.
Yeah, well, you know what? You fucked it up.
What do you mean? What was I supposed to say?
Yes. You're supposed to say, boy, I don't understand a word you just said.
This one seems like the cow got into an onion patch. All right. Moving on. I'm sure you guys saw this earlier this week. So Richard Branson made it into space, obviously. Did you guys check this out at all? Like how he actually got into space?
I didn't hear about it.
I just saw something that said he did it on his own
or something.
Wait. Don't all go at once, and then you did. Buddha?
No, I was just saying the only thing that I saw was it said like his own private blah blah blah, but it didn't go into any details.
Yeah. Gary, what'd you say?
Oh, I saw something about some charity like Omazel thing that he would take somebody up to 250,000 feet. But I didn't hear that he actually went this week. I heard he was preparing to go.
Yeah, he went on I think Sunday. But I mean, so it's not like a traditional rocket like you would see in like SpaceX or NASA's doing. It's actually like it kind of looks like a plane that's attached to another plane that once it's up a certain altitude detaches, and then a jet or a rocket takes off, and they get up into about, I think it was like 270,000 feet above the earth. And so it's got to be just on the brink of like space, but not out. It's out of the atmosphere, but enough to where they could safely return, because they weren't like in spacesuits with oxygen helmets or anything like that. They were just wearing like these flight suit looking things. But I mean, it didn't last very long. They did get to experience weightlessness. So, is it real space? I don't know. Are they going to put a hefty price tag on it? Probably. Would I go on it? Absolutely.
Well, that's the answer.
Yeah. Would you go on it?
I'm not giving up a house to go on it.
Well, I mean, if they said you could go for free, would you go?
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, I have no qualms about it. It's not like I feel like it's unsafe.
Second flight? I mean, I'd still be kind of nervous to fly on it, like within its infancy. But then again, that's a risk you're going to have to take. Buddha, what about you? You getting on that thing?
What else can you do other than just be there?
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it. You get to experience weightlessness.
Yeah, but I could do that on Earth.
Well, yeah, what, like in the vomit comet or whatever?
Well, that whole... I mean, I physically can't go and do it, but, if I wanted to train as an astronaut, I could.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. All right. Let's see. Did you guys... There's a lot of space stuff going on this week, so... Did you guys see the article that the moon wobble, and this is coming out of CBS News, moon wobble in orbit may lead to record flooding on Earth in the 2030s?
Haven't heard of it.
No.
So what they're saying is that every coast in the U.S. is facing rapidly increasing high tide floods. NASA said this is due to a wobble in the moon's orbit working in tandem with climate change fueled rising sea levels. The new study from NASA and the University of Hawaii, published recently in the Journal of Natural Climate Change, warns that the upcoming change in the moon's orbit could lead to record flooding on Earth in the next decade. Though the mapping, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, sea level rise scenarios, flood thresholds, and astronomical cycles, researchers found flooding in American coastal cities would be several multiples worse than in 2030s when the moon wobble is expected to begin. They expect flooding to significantly damage infrastructure and displace communities. So, I guess...
So what's the plan to fix this? Are we going to get a really powerful laser and draw a mask on the moon?
I say we blow it up, like in Mr. Show. But, no, I mean... That's the thing. Like, all this infrastructure was built, and then something like this comes, and are we going to blow this out of proportion, or is this a real thing? I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to wait 10 years to find out, but, like, how do you even combat something like that? I mean, other than just to build walls and infrastructure around keeping the water out, but who knows how high it could be, too. So.
I think one of the problems with stuff like this is that because everything, just with the planet and the solar system and everything is essentially ever changing, you have these dudes that could have possibly been right or possibly read something wrong, and then they start like this panic that just snowballs, and everybody starts preparing and prepping and, accommodating whatever could potentially happen. And then, like, if they're wrong, did you just waste 10 to 15 years of something that could have been spent doing something else?
Exactly.
All right.
So, I don't know. I mean, kind of worrisome, but I mean, I think we're far enough inland, so it wouldn't affect us. But then again, I don't know. Does, I know the moon... What's that?
Yeah, just fuck them. We're not by the ocean. We're not by the coastline. Fuck them.
we are by Lake Erie, which I'm sure the moon has some effect on the tide there on the lake.
Yeah, we're not that close to the lake.
Yeah. All right. So this one's out of, and I've been trying to search for just weird stories, and I'm always interested in and kind of creeped out by these, but like just missing people. And so I've been searching for missing people stories, and I'm going to keep this one open, and then we'll report back on it next time we do a show and see if this person was found. But this is out of, let's see, Hoover, Alabama. Let's see here. Missing Hoover woman. Hoover police are searching for a missing 26-year-old woman. Officers say Angela Michelle Roberts' family reported her missing on July 10th. The family said that she was last seen on June 25th or 26th. Roberts was last seen leaving a house on Old Tyler Road in an unknown rideshare vehicle. There's no information on where she was going or what she was wearing. My question is, all right, how long before the police start pulling her data records? And, You
mean like Facebook and her cell phone and stuff like that?
No. I mean, I'm sure that they tried to ping her cell phone. They can't find it. But, like, I mean, how much of that data is stored, like, within the phone company that they could be like, okay, well, this is the last tower she came off of was right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Really easy to do. They can do that, like, instantly. They don't have to, like, wait.
But I'm saying, like, did they do that already?
They would have. That's, like, the first thing they do, because the telephone companies claim that's their data, not yours. And, like, the state police can just call them up and, like, give them, like, an access number and be like, all right, the last tower that she was connected to was this one, and the one before that was this. And so they can triangulate, just off of that data, they can triangulate, like, what road she was on or where she was moving or how fast she was going. And then they know when, like, the last signal came through.
Yeah.
So they can estimate all that stuff, so.
But, yeah, June 25th, that's going on 3-4 weeks now. So, I don't know. It's like it's weird because these people disappear for a couple weeks and then they pop back up. But then some people are like, "Oh, this person's a goner." I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, what is there any more details on the actual case?
No, that's it. I mean, they're just saying she's missing. So,
I don't know, what city was this?
Hoover, Alabama.
Why is this making the news? People go missing every day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Did you listen to the first?
Well, I did, but I don't know. Maybe I missed something that was important to the story. It's just
I'm trying. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling up a missing person case.
Just a random missing person case.
Yeah, and so then we'll come back to it next week. Unless you guys think it's a boring idea, then I won't do it.
Well, no. Well, why it struck me as like why you bring this up is there's recently around my area for some reason, this girl. Fawn Mountain in her 20s that's been missing since like 2012. They've just started putting up like $100,000 or $10,000 rewards or something, and they're paying for a bunch of billboards, and they're like trying to find. Yeah, I think it's Fawn Mountain.
That's her name, Fawn Mountain.
Yes, Fawn and then the mountain. And it's like why I don't know why like 7 years after she was like missing or something that they're trying to like, and it's a big thing too over a couple counties, and they're just pouring a lot of money into it, and they're not releasing any details. So, I mean, and the media's kind of stayed off it. So it's like I have no idea what's going on. If it was drug related, if she actually just disappeared, or if they're looking for somebody for a murder, or
that's weird what. because you mentioned the name, and I'm like, it sounds like a place, but
it does.
Oh man, now I feel like a jerk. Because I'm like, what's the name? What's the name of it? What's the name of the person? You're like Fawn Mountain. I'm like, no. What's the name of the person, not the place?
Yeah, it's real weird. So I don't know. And then sometimes it can just be simple stuff like that. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking here. It says it's 2012, just days after Thanksgiving. The Pennsylvania fall is starting to turn to winter, signaling the start of buck season. Fawn Mountain has spent the day with her girlfriend Heather at Heather's parents' home in East Freedom, preparing their butcher shop for the hunting season. Heather's brother Mike and his girlfriend Stephanie also helped clean the shop by washing it down with bleach and sterilizing tools. Once finished, they all drink some beer before heading home together, since the couples are neighbors in the Claysburg Park trailer park. God damn. I can't read. I don't know. Yeah, this is kind of weird too. But yeah, no, so like I said, I mean, missing people. It's kind of weird. Gary, I don't know if you heard about the story from in Cleveland a couple of years ago. What was it? God, it's going on 10 years now. But there was 3 women that were missing for 10 years plus, and they never really gave up the search, but one day one of the girls escaped, and
escaped what?
Their captor. So
wow.
They were 3 missing people. Michelle Knight. What was the other one? Gina DeJesus, and what was the other one? Buddha.
Amanda Berry.
Yeah, and so like all 3 of them were separate missing cases, and they were huge cases. Every year or two they would pop up on the news. This person's still not found. Well, Amanda Berry escaped the one day, and it turned out all 3 of these women that were missing, that had been reported on for years that they were still missing, were all in the same place. And so it made like national headlines and stuff. But Amanda Berry works for Fox 8 now, the local Fox affiliate. And the other 2 have kind of, they're just not spending a whole lot of time in the public eye. But
damn.
Yeah, crazy. So we'll see if this person's found by next week. Hopefully alive. I mean, I don't know. Like, going that long, it's always grim, but then again, people go missing permanently, and who knows, they may have started a life somewhere else. So,
like how I've brought up like those missing 411 cases before.
Yeah.
There's a dude on YouTube that has a channel that doesn't like do just those, but he'll just kind of do like disappearances in general. Like those cases fit more of like a specific profile, whereas this guy will do those as well as just normal missing persons cases. And they were like looking for this guy that fit like the missing 411 case profile, and there was like a big search for him, and they end up finding like 2 teenagers that went missing, I guess a couple months ago, and like they were found dead in the woods together.
Oh. Yeah, I remember.
Did you? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you remember that case where, I don't remember the kid's name, but like there was like this huge thing. He was on the news, and they were trying to find him, and they said like he may have been like a little slow, and there was like this what the hell was it? I guess it would be abandoned, but just no one lived there. It was like a cabin or like a house that was fairly close to where this kid lived. And, everybody was like, you should check that house. I know I've seen him go up there before, and the cops were like, he's not there. And then like, I think like a year later, it was a long time. They end up finding his remains like wedged in the chimney.
Yeah, I do remember that.
You remember that one? Yeah. And the crazy thing is like when he was in the chimney, the owner said like he had just had a cage put on the top, or like a caged cap to stop any animals from getting in there, and he's like, there's no way he could have gone in from the top, because it was however small, it was like 9 inches, You know, there's no way he could have fit through there.
Yes.
But basically, he was in there, and I think they said the actual cause of death was suffocation, just because he was in such a tight space that he couldn't get in or out, and just essentially suffocated.
How old was this kid?
I think he was a teenager. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, but yeah, I do definitely remember.
I think that was the same case where like he had been seen hanging out with this other dude,
Harley Dilly.
Yeah, it was. And was that the dude that was he ended up being? He was like hanging out with this dude from school, and everybody said like that other dude was kind of a bad dude, and
yeah, like he kind of went down like the chimney, not maybe, like on a dare or something, but like they kind of were like, oh, go down this chimney, and they made it sound like he had maybe done it on a dare or something, got stuck, and everybody kind of bailed on him or something like that.
So I might be confusing. I might be confusing two cases, but I think this is the same one where like the guy that he was like had started hanging out with, he ended up moving somewhere else and was like under investigation for part of a murder or something, and then like went to another location, I think like another state, and was like under investigation for another murder that involved like theft from like an elderly person.
Oh wow!
In conjunction with that murder, and they kept on saying like, you know, this kid could put like he was hanging out with this murderer, and he's gone missing, and right after he goes missing, this dude disappears and goes to another state. Like, you should look into that. And the cops are like, no, there's no relation. And then like it came back and they're like, no, like this dude is already being looked at for like another murder. You should probably look into this. And they're like, nah, case closed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Whatever's easy, man. They just want to close the cases. They could give a
exactly.
shit.
Do you remember this one? This one was kind of weird too. Corey Barron, he died at Progressive Field. Or he went missing at a concert at Progressive Field, and they ended up finding his body in the dump. And they think that he fell down the garbage chute at Progressive Field.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I do remember that. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was 2016. But yeah,
fell down, like went down, or was like was put down, tear down.
Yeah. So yeah, this is for Fox 8, our local thing. It says Cleveland police are now reviewing an investigation into a man found dead in the trash after a concert at Progressive Field in 2014. The move to review the case comes a few weeks after Fox 8 I-Team reported that private investigators and the family members are pushing to have the manner of Corey Barron's death changed from undetermined to homicide. On July 18th, Barron went to the Jason Aldean concert at Progressive Field with his sister, brother, and some friends. He was last seen alive around 9:30 that night. His body was found a few days later in a landfill in Lorain County. Cleveland police closed Barron's case in 2015 after city prosecutors ruled that there was insufficient evidence that a criminal offense had occurred. Police said at the time they believed Barron died after falling down a garbage chute. Well, how the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, how do you get in a garbage chute? Yeah, right.
Right. So the private investigators, all retired federal agents, spent the last 6 years working on the case, and they say they believe the 22-year-old recent college graduate was murdered. We do not believe that he accidentally fell down the garbage chute and died, says Dick Wren, a retired FBI agent who is one of the private investigators working the case. He pointed out that Barron had injuries to his head, ribs that happened prior to his death. It is our belief that he got into an altercation with persons unknown, and he was hit both on the head and in the ribs and placed in the garbage chute. Our investigation has developed some leads that are better investigated by a police agency with the ability to obtain DNA samples from possible suspects. Corey's father, Matt, says that the family is relieved and pleased that the homicide detective is going over the case again. So yeah, I mean, that's what I say. Like, how does somebody end up down a garbage chute? Like, you're not. What are you, that messed up that you just open it up and think that, well, let's go in here? You know. Well, somebody had to have put them in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that was kind of the whole thing. Is that it seems like nobody wanted to, like you were saying, case closed. You know, nobody wants to investigate further.
Yeah, the venue doesn't. The garbage company doesn't. Like everybody's incentivized to not give a shit about it.
Yeah,
dude, especially like with a big venue like that, they just want it done and gone. They just want it to go away.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like all the stuff that they had to kind of cordon off to while investigations happened. I mean, that happened in the middle of the summer, and that it happened during a concert. So the Indians were on an away. They did like a.
The world's first fully autonomous vehicle is almost at the finish line.
What a ride.
Stupid ads. God. But
well, I mean, in that same vein, it's like, do you know how many people die at like movie theaters just sitting in the seats during a movie or like in hotel rooms? And it's just like the news will be like, oh, today some girl choked on a bagel in the park. But you don't hear of anything like that because these places are greasing the media and stuff to keep that shit out of so you never hear about it.
Yeah, and so like the Indians were on an away trip doing several games away, so I'm sure that they had time to investigate, but at some point they're going to want to open up the area for business again. But you make another interesting point, like how many people do just die going to the movies?
All the time. It happens all the time. Like next time, like go to the movies the next time you go or something, or like when you're checking in and like ask the manager like how many people die here a week, and it's just like it happens all the time.
It's funny you mentioned
sitting that. in the theater. I'm not even saying like there was.
We went to
like
Florida.
Natural causes. We went
to Florida back at like I think in 2011. We pulled into the parking lot, and all of a sudden I'm like, there's police cars and shit everywhere, and I'm like, man, where are all these people coming from, or where are all these police coming from? And then turns out, right before we pulled in, some guy died in his car and had a heart attack. But it's just like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I wonder, like,
right.
All right, so you've got friends that work at a movie theater. Have they ever had that happen?
Yes. They go in for a theater check, like at the end of the movie or whatever, and there's some guy sitting there, and they walk over because a lot of people fall asleep during the movies, and it's like, oh, fuck, he's dead. Damn it.
Well, all right. Well, kind of weird.
You gotta go, you gotta go, man.
Yeah,
you don't gotta pick the time.
Yeah. Clock's run out. All right. We got a fourth seat coming in here. I talked to him earlier. Rady will be making an appearance this week.
Ooh.
Boo.
So, all right. This one comes out of... I got a couple more here real quick. We'll try to get through. So, have you guys seen that Netflix is potentially trying to stream video games?
I saw that they raised their prices to like $22 a month, motherfuckers.
I did not see that yet, but...
Well, check credit card bill. It's like $22 a month.
Yeah, it says Netflix on Wednesday hired Mark... this is off of Fox Business. Mike Verdu, a former Electronic Arts and Facebook executive, was a vice president of game development. The company plans to begin streaming video games within the next year, Bloomberg News reported, citing a person familiar with the situation. I don't know, kind of cool, but like, I mean, what's the bandwidth level? Can it even sustain? Go ahead.
You hired someone from two of the biggest piece of shit companies.
Well, they former employees from two of the biggest piece of shit companies.
EA is still going strong at failing at about everything they do.
They should make a lot of money though.
I can't think of the last EA game I bought. I think it was the first Battlefront.
2K.
No.
The only thing keeping EA going is The Sims.
Yeah. Well, they did Battlefront. I bought that one, and that was the big to do. Was everybody was pissed about the all the micro transactions and shit. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, to stay on point with the Netflix video game, they put their feet in the water with this a few years ago with the Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Did you watch/play it?
I mean, I like Black Mirror. I've watched a couple episodes.
Well, if you're not familiar with Bandersnatch, I would recommend to go through it properly. Is going to take a couple hours, but it's kind of time travel related. But it's interactive. It's kind of like a video game. Isn't Bird Box? Bird Box was the Sandra Bullock thing, right? I'm familiar. But the best way to describe this is like a choose-your-own-adventure book you read in elementary school, except for it's a movie.
Like those Goosebump books?
Yeah, kind of. Like if you think, Josie should turn left, go to page 64, or if you think she should turn right, go to page 187. Kind of like that. But I would recommend.
Cool.
Pretty good.
Okay, this one I'm just gonna hit on real quick, just because it's just kind of weird. But there's a restaurant in New York that has French fries that cost $200. Ridiculous. I don't know. I thought that was on.
It has what?
A New York restaurant broke its 10th Guinness World Record with its latest menu item, a plate of French fries that cost $200.
French fried potatoes. Mm-hmm.
Gary, if you want to go and blow your entire wad on, at least you can have them, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At least I can have them.
Right.
Never seen Sling Blade? Billy Bob Thornton?
Yes.
French fried potatoes. Mm-hmm.
The dish is titled Creme de la Creme Pommes Frites. Features ingredients including chipperback potatoes, Dom Perignon champagne, J. LeBlanc, French champagne, Ardenne vinegar, cage-free goose fat from France, truffle salt, truffle oil, Tarrafello cheese, shaved black summer truffles from Italy, truffle butter, an organic A2 100% grass-fed creamy from Jersey cows. Oh, cream from Jersey cows. Truffled Swiss rasselette and a topping of a 23-karat edible gold dust. $200.
I was waiting for that. I knew there was gold somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta be. Be shitting gold. Literally.
That's exactly. It's Goldschlager, man. It's fucking.
All right. Two more. You guys see this auction the other day? A sealed copy of Super Mario 64 sells for $1.56 million.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh man.
You and the Shrink, man, rated like 9.6 and out of 10 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, who would spend that kind of money?
They're money laundering, basically. It's like those NFTs and stuff. They have to be money laundering.
Yeah, you make a good point, because all that, artwork and sales like that, people say like they'll put a value of like $1 million on something, but really it's just some piece of shit somebody threw paint on.
Right. Well, see, when you say it's sold at auction, that means there wasn't one crazy motherfucker that bid that. That means that was the price that the second crazy motherfucker was going to bid. That means there was two people willing to pay that money. You know what I mean? Like two people had to bid it up at least. Like, so that's what it's saying when it says sold at auction. It wasn't like a private sale. They're insinuating that more than one person was in a bidding war for this.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. Dan, what's up?
Gentlemen and Buddha.
Good evening.
What's up, stupid?
Fuck is going on, gentlemen?
Not much. Dan, Gary, Dan.
What's up, Gary?
Your acquaintance?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance as well, sir.
All right, now that the pleasantries, let the shit talking commence. All right, no. Last story I got on here, and then we're going to hop into Buddha stuff. There are 4 different types of serial killers. Here's how experts describe them. This is way too long. Buddha, what do you got tonight?
Oh, all right.
Well, that was fast.
Yeah, I'm not going to read this whole freaking thing.
So I got a couple things I want to talk about because they're all kind of short.
Okay.
But I guess I don't know the best approach. John, what is the best way for me to send you an image, or can I just send you the link?
I'll send you an email address via text right now.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like a super short one, but you kind of need the picture to be able to see it.
Well,
and
do you have another one that you want to go to then first?
Yeah, I can go to that.
All right.
And this is actually kind of like a collection of a bunch of different stories, but I don't know if you remember, like a long time ago when we first started this, I did the story about the Kandahar Giants, and it was basically the military. I think I've even talked about it before, but there was like a unit that had been sent out, and they came across like allegedly a giant in the Middle East. Do you remember that story?
Yeah.
Vaguely.
Okay. So for any of those that are listening that don't know it, the very, very short of it is that there was like a military unit that was stationed in the Middle East, and as they were being trained, they were always taught to like aim for the head, even though like that's not a normal practice. Normally you would aim for center mass. And they never really told them why, and they just kind of said, no, like, you're going to need to. And there was like a transmission from some guys that went dead, and they couldn't talk, like they couldn't get a hold of them. So they sent this unit out to go find them. And when this unit goes out, like there's a bunch of different caves in the area where they were, and they ended up getting rushed by like what was a quote unquote giant. And they actually, one of the guys got killed with a spear being, thrown by the giant. But that kind of lent to the whole thing of like, this is why you need to aim for the head, is because if you're aiming at center mass on a giant, chest height is about head height on a normal human. Anyway, that all got covered up, allegedly, again. That all got covered up, and then like now a couple of the guys in the unit are actually speaking out about what happened. They supposedly submitted their report, and when the military read it, they're like, this is fucking crazy. Like, you need to change this. So then they ended up rewriting it to something that sounded normal, submitted that, and then now years later after the incident, they're, coming out and talking about it and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that kind of got me down like the rabbit hole of, well, what else kind of happens, with the military that you don't really hear about because, we're not there. And I kind of went down, I went down the rabbit hole pretty far, so I just kind of grabbed a couple different stories. But are you guys familiar at all with what a djinn is?
Not like the type of booze, but...
What's that?
Not like the booze. I'm not trying
I know the booze, yeah.
Yeah.
No. So basically, it's kind of like in the Muslim world, it's kind of like almost a demon. It's not like a demon in the sense of like how we would think about it, but basically it's just like a mischievous being that's closer to human but is not human. And to kind of go into, I guess, what would be like the more accurate definition of it is jinn were the beings that were eavesdropping on angels when they were created, so they were kind of banished to live on a parallel plane as Earth. I know I'm going way off topic here, but I'm just trying to give like a backstory. So just think of like, they're not all bad, but some type of malevolent, we'll just call it a being that's not
Aren't
human.
these like kind of related to the root of like genies, like the original definition where they're more or less human, but like they weren't like completely magical?
Yes, exactly. And well, in the way it translates is literally just to hide or hidden. So it's kind of like they're just hiding in plain sight. But the whole point is that they're essentially mischievous. Some of them are allegedly fucking evil. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I know I'm just kind of talking in circles, but these are some of like the different stories that were reported like by different military units or whatnot. And I just thought that they were kind of interesting. So like here's a report from June 2003. A soldier that had been stationed in Mosul, Iraq, with the United States Army in the infantry with the 101st Airborne. According to the witness, at the time of the incident, he had just been involved in helping to suppress a riot that had broken out with the locals unhappy with the corrupt local police. In order to protect the police, squads were deployed to various police stations 24/7 for their protection. And the witness happened to be in one of these squads one evening, keeping watch on a 3-story police building located in a cramped section that was basically surrounded by narrow roads, barely wide enough to drive through. And then the witness goes on to describe what happened, which was, myself and 2 other guys from the squad were sitting on the balcony on the 2nd floor of the station pulling security on our shift. It was sometime in the night. If I had to guess, I would say sometime around 2:30. While on guard, we would use lights on our rifles to illuminate any car that drove by so that we could see if there were any sort of weapons in the vehicle and stuff like that. We heard a car driving towards us from the side of the road on the mosque, so we got ready with our lights to illuminate the car when it came into view. Once we saw the car, we shined our lights into the vehicle, directing the light towards the driver. The driver had a typical reaction to the surefire light by squinting his eyes and attempting to look away from the light. The passenger had a much different reaction. His eyes seemed to glow with intensity by the light. He stared right back at the light, almost looking through it and at us. and it was just very eerie. And at the time, the best we could describe his eyes were that of a cat in the dark with a flashlight shined in its face. I have never heard of a person's eyes being able to reflect light like that before, or anything you could purchase to do such things, especially in a second or third world country. And for anyone that doesn't know, human eyes don't reflect light. That's kind of one of the big things in any kind of like cryptid or paranormal or supernatural sighting, is they always say the eyes reflect. Like when you start talking about like skinwalkers or any type of like Sasquatch or the dog men, like all that stuff, it's all one of the things being that of an animal, like a dog's eyes or a cat's eyes, is that they'll reflect light. Just like when, the deer caught in the headlights, like their eyes reflect light back at you. And one of the forms of that's usually taken from jinn, or a jinn will usually take, is that of a cat. So I don't know if that was, he was just saying as an example, or that was another one. Like I said, this wasn't any specific things I wanted to talk about. There was just like a couple on here that I thought were kind of interesting. And let me see, here's another one.
So I got a question.
Let me grab a different one. John. Yeah.
Dan?
You going to ask it?
Can you hear me? Yep, yeah. So I got a quick question about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, here's a question about the eyes. Why is it because I'm not a tech savvy when it comes to camera and film and that, but why when you take photos sometimes, especially if it's dark out, you do see in some cases the eye reflect? And I'm not just talking about red eye. I mean, you actually do see that in certain cases. What's the explanation for that?
Gary? Resident
Gary.
scientist?
I'm actually asking you, Gary.
Well, it's the light going through the iris. There's fluid in the eye, and it's the dilation of the pupil as the flash passes through it.
Say that again?
As the flash of the light, it usually happens with a flash. It won't happen with regular light. So
you just like that's through it.
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of
no, it's
breaking up here.
No, it's just trying to say that 5 times fast. It's like flash passes. I can't do it.
Here, here's one right here. The flash on a camera is bright enough, however, to cause a reflection off of the retina. What you see is the red color from the blood vessels nourishing the eyes.
Okay.
So, and it says, the flash goes off twice. Once. Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically, what you're seeing is the reflection of the filled up blood vessels in your eyes.
Interesting. Yes. So, I mean, there is the case where it will, regardless of what's causing it, it does cause a reflection in that particular case when a photo's taken.
Yeah, but you're not
obviously
not like when we take our dogs out at night and you shine an eye past, or a light past them,
like headlights or something. Yeah.
The reason that happens is because when the flash hits, it's not making the eye glow. There's a small reflection and the blood vessels are glowing for a second that's just long enough that it's timed properly with the camera, that the camera sees the glow disproportionately to the exposure of the film. But it's happening so short, like it's not actually an effect that you're going to notice. Like if you could keep your eyes open during a camera flash, you wouldn't really notice that because it only happens on axis. It's kind of like taking a camera of a retroreflective like license plate. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, interesting.
So, didn't they make a spray, Dan, for like cars that like you could spray?
Yeah, they do.
Plate?
Yeah, for to get rid of the radar.
Yeah. So they don't fucking work.
Right.
If they work, they would be illegal.
Well, now it doesn't matter because that doesn't even matter now because Ohio. I'm sure PA has already had this, but Ohio, you don't have to have a front plate on your car anymore. So
PA's never had to have a front plate.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to run a radar here either. It's pretty.
I did get a $9 ticket from Pennsylvania toll thing.
A $9 ticket?
Well, it's not a ticket, but like instead
of a toll.
Well, yeah. Instead of having to drop the money in the thing or swiping your card, now they just take a picture of your license plate and send you a bill.
Yeah, plate by toll or some shit like that. They call it. So they could fire all the operators that were handling money on the turnpike.
Oh, those friendly people.
Yeah.
Here, Dan, real quick. It's oh shit, I lost it. Here it says human eyes would always reflect a red color. This is because we do not have the reflective layer behind the retina. Therefore, the light will not be reflected back toward the photographer or the viewer. So if you do see a human set of eyeballs lighting up in the dark, it is typically because they are being photographed. So it's saying that it won't do it from like a flashlight being held on it, but the flash would, then you would see it.
Gotcha.
But anyway.
Yep.
So here's another one. And if I'm fucking boring you, please let me know.
What? Who said that?
Yeah.
Here, this is just same thing, just another guy that just kind of threw his case out. I was in Kabul, Afghanistan on my 4th tour in the Middle East. At that time, I was platoon sergeant at a station, and I don't know what any of this shit is, so bear with me, but I was a platoon sergeant of a PSD unit station at ISAF headquarters. That day there was an intel that insurgents were looking to intel that insurgents were looking to target our vehicles on our normal routes. There was only so many different roads to get to NK, and it was hard to change up the pattern, so I decided to try a completely new route we haven't driven before. I scouted it out using a map and satellite imagery. The road looked like it was paved and good, so we headed out. As we started down this new road, we saw it was dirt and not paved, and we got stuck in the mud right at this tall wall. I get out of the vehicle, and I was knee-deep in mud that was not from dirt, but human waste and trash. Took us over an hour to self-extract from the mud. Worst part was I had to toss... Okay, that shit doesn't matter. Get to the fucking point. Now, I would toss up to bad luck and coincidence. At the same time, I was having some strange stuff going on. I had a room that I could lock and no one else could get in, and I would put something like vehicle keys or other important items in my bed to leave and lock in my room, only to come back and they would be missing. Okay, this is kind of a dumb one. Basically, this guy's trying to explain that...
Are these from Reddit?
No, these are from a couple different websites.
Gotcha.
Let me see. Hang on.
You know what's funny? You should mention this. Like, a lot of these, these past 2 stories are coming from like the Middle East territory. You bring up like a good point. That is, in theory, like the oldest section of the world with human civilization. So, to see like weird creatures or strange anomalies within like the human race or just the human species, I guess. You're gonna, I would say, go to the place where it's been around the longest, and that makes sense. Am I making sense?
No, yeah, for sure. It just has a much longer, much older, much more brutal history.
Yeah.
You know, like if you really think about it, America is so young in comparison to like any other country.
Well, I mean,
that's true.
Kind of. I mean, how long were the Native Americans here though before like?
Yeah, but that's not America.
Thousands of years. Well,
you know what I mean?
I mean, there's a pretty good saying.
You mean the current America? Yep.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a pretty good saying in like Europe and stuff like that Americans think 100 years is a long time, and Europeans think 100 miles is a long distance. Right? It's just culturally different.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you know, it's funny. I have, family from Europe, and when they came over to the States, they thought, oh, we're just going to take a drive over to Las Vegas, and then we'll maybe take a ride down to Florida. And, they didn't realize that it's an entire continent's distance. It's not like getting on a train and taking a 3-hour train ride, and you're in another country.
But that's how everything is over there. Like, like 3 or 4 different countries will just fit in, like, Pennsylvania or Ohio and stuff like that. It's crazy.
But yeah, Buddha, you make a good point. Like, go to the place where it's the oldest, it's got most recorded history. Yes, America as we know it, we don't have, our history, we've kept it a record since we've landed, or since the settlers and Columbus landed here. And again, I know that he's not the first person to land here. And they're even thinking that, Ponce de Leon was probably not the first person either, but like, how long has human life been on, North American continent?
16 years.
All right.
This is the last one I'll do, and then we can move on.
Wear horse shoes. Do they wear horse socks? Is anyone even listening to me?
Wow. So this one is actually from a guy named David Morehouse, and he wrote of his own experience he wrote a book called Psychic Warrior, coming soon to TNT. No, but so it says, according to Morehouse, he was stationed in Jordan at a desolate valley called Batan El Ghul in order to take part in training exercises with Jordanian troops. The location is already spooky enough as it is, with the valley long said to be prowled by demons and ghosts, and even the name Batan, I don't know if it's Batan or Batan El Ghul itself having the sinister meaning belly of the beast. Jordanian soldiers have often told of seeing demons stalking about in the wasteland or even attacking people, and the whole valley was said to be a cursed place. But things would get strange for Morehouse when he sustained a head injury when he was accidentally shot in the helmet during a training exercise. Morehouse would go on to claim that the injury had left him with the ability to see the jinn, which he would report on thus, and this is the excerpt from his book. Sometime in the night, my eyes opened to a surreal light outside the tent. It was like the light of an eclipsed sun and wasn't coming from any stove. It filled the night sky. The entire Batan El Ghul and the hills beyond were bathed in the strange bluish-gray light. I walked to the edge of the bluff and stared into the valley. Dark figures moved effortlessly across its floor like apparitions. They poured from the rocks in various heaps and shapes and moved about the clusters of tents. I could hear muffled cries from the Jordanian encampment, and momentarily I thought we were being overrun by thieves or Israelis. Panicked, I turned to run for help. Colliding with one of the figures, I reflexively closed my eyes, except I didn't collide. I walked right through it. Turning around, I watched the figure disappear over the edge of the bluff. And then that's the end of it. Which kind of, it makes you think like, okay, so the dude sustained a head injury. He could have been hallucinating. I mean, also just being in the military in general, being in an area where you don't know it, you're at war or whatever you want to call it with some type of opposition, like the amount of stress that would cause on your body, like the human body can only take so much before it's going to start to crack. Like what if, granted there is a common theme between a lot of these sightings, whether it be like the reflective eyes or the things disappearing, like that's still the same stuff that you hear about anywhere, not necessarily military related, but really anywhere. And generally it's happening in times of stress. Like when people talk about hauntings, well, I mean, I guess that's not the best example, but that being said, like when people talk about hauntings, it's generally creating some type of, at the very least, mild stress. That, I don't know. I mean, how much does that really wear on your mind and your body in general to start hallucinating or jumping to conclusions about every little thing you hear or see?
But yeah, I mean, that's energy. Like,
well, I mean, some people that claim, all this paranormal stuff is real, saying that this stuff's around us and we usually are just ignoring it. So maybe it takes a different state of mind or a state that we're not at our full capacity to let something like that in and not filter it out and ignore it.
Or we're just not.
They could say the other way around.
I see what you're saying, kind of like the radio dial being tuned to the perfect frequency.
Right.
Yeah.
There's actually.
Well, they also say too.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say I've also heard too that a lot of times, I guess this is what you were saying, Buddha, but when a lot of this stuff happens and people see things, hear things, they think their house is haunted, all this stuff. And I think that's what you were saying, but in their life they're going through all kind of stuff. It seems like there is a common denominator of they just went through a bad divorce. They lost a loved one. There's this unbelievable amount of stress going, on top of them, and all of a sudden this other stuff starts happening where they're seeing things, hearing things. It makes you wonder, now is like you just said, is that the mind playing tricks on you?
No.
Or
you make up a good point. I just kind of thought of this as you were saying that. Like, what if you've trained, or humans have trained themselves to tune all of that out?
Right.
But what stress does is that because you're focused on everything else and your mind's going in other directions, basically you can only juggle so many plates. So what if your filter
right,
that filters all this stuff out gets turned off, and that's why you're more akin to seeing things like that or hearing things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, and it's also makes you wonder. I mean, again, I'm not the biggest. I'm a kind of a skeptic on a lot of it, but why is it that supposedly little kids see things? They don't have any stress in their life.
Exactly what I was just about to say.
They don't have they don't have stress in their life. They're just little kids. Animals. I mean, they're animals. They don't have really. They do, but they don't have stress. They see things. Kids have imaginary friends they're talking to. I don't know. It makes you wonder.
Yeah. Or even like when you think about, and I was actually going to look up some stories on this, and maybe we'll do it on another episode, or try to get somebody that's written a book on it. Like, I really want to get an author on here, but somebody like you mentioned kids that that recall like having a former life, and so as you get older, maybe you kind of learn how to block all those old memories. But these kids that like are talking about stories from World War II and the people that they knew and the squad that they were in and all these things that have happened. Like, yeah, you make a good point. Maybe we've just become so focused and learned how to tune things out that we just have been we've gotten better as a society of putting the blinders on. And so, maybe not being able to see the entire picture.
True.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely a skeptic as well, clearly, but I do find this stuff interesting. Yeah. And, part of me just wants to believe that it's real because I think it's interesting. It's just, I have no personal experience with any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as like the haunting stuff with the situations changing, like, it's not like you're sitting there hanging out one day and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm haunted. Like, you know what I mean? It's always like you move into a new house. That's fucking stressful for anyone that's ever done that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You are in a situation where potentially you get out of or in a new relationship, a new job. Like, any of these major life changes are going to come with some amount of stress, whether you don't really notice it, and that's the way your body could potentially react. I mean, I'm not a fucking scientist, but I think everybody knows like what stress can do to your body. Stupid. Yeah, exactly. But to get back on topic here, I mean, there's like endless fucking stories with this kind of stuff, and like some of them are a little more brutal, some of them are just kind of boring. But there was actually another one, and I guess this would have been a really short one to do, but for the very quick of it, I don't remember where they were stationed. It was somewhere that used to be like a World War II battleground, and there was a troop that was there for like a couple months, and when the new troop came in to relieve them, they just kind of told them like, if you dig anything up, put it back. And that was like all they told them. They were just basically like, just trust me, shit's kind of weird. So they were there for a couple days and like nothing really happened. And they started, I think it was the dog started digging, and it dug up like a hand or a finger bone or something like that. And the guys were just kind of like, whatever. So after that happened, they started hearing noises, and it sounded like gunshots and stuff like they would start to hear, but there was never anything there. And I think that this went on for like a week or two, and then by the last day, they actually all like radioed in that they were being attacked. Like they thought that they were being overrun. It was just like an all-out battlefield, and it went on like this for a substantial amount of time before it finally stopped. And then they realized that there was nobody there except them, and they ended up burying everything that they found, and it never happened again. Once again, it could be bullshit, but I find stuff like that interesting, especially something that is a battlefield, or, essentially where a ton of people died. I mean, God, man, the energy of that area would just be so toxic.
I definitely agree. I want to say real quick, but I was going to piggyback on what you just said about how you're a skeptic. And I just want to say like why I'm such a big skeptic on all this stuff, but I find it so amazing. I love talking about it, like with you guys and doing stories on it, because I'd love to see something. I would absolutely love to see a haunting or a ghost. But you know, as you guys know, I've had a lot of personal tragedy in my family, lost a lot of loved ones, some instantly. I've lived in, unlike Gary, who's, that's hard to believe, Gary, you lived in one house your whole life. That is a miracle. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. I've lived in about 17 places in my life, and 10 of those were houses. And 10 of them were like really, some of them were like really old, you know, like houses built in the 1915s, 1920s, or whatever, 1910s, whatever you want to call it. And I've never seen, ever, I've gone into cemeteries, I've gone into areas that were supposedly haunted, never seen anything, never heard anything, nothing even close. And that's why I'm such a skeptic on it. And I agree with Buddha. I find it so fascinating to talk about, but I never had a personal experience. And when you don't have a personal experience on it, it puts, it keeps that, I don't know how to describe it. It keeps the window open like, well, it's there, but it can't be there because I've never seen it. So I think everyone that's, not that I'm saying this, but you think everyone that says they see ghosts and hear ghosts, right. Well, there's got to be a reason. They're high, they're drunk, they're whatever, you know. But I wish that day would come sometime. I could see one.
I think so many people just have a confirmation bias, though.
Right.
Like it's like the same people that are like X, Y, and Z is true because some random guy on the internet or some random article I came across said so. Or my buddy's cousin's
right.
nephew's brother's former
right.
roommate said something. If anybody caught that reference. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's just there's so much if you want so badly for something to be real but not have experience or not have the experience to believe that it's real, like the only thing that's stopping you from believing is you just saying it's not real. Like, you know what I mean? I can sit here and tell you guys all day long, ghosts are real, werewolves are real, dragons are real, just because I want them to be. And then I can write an article and you can read that and go, nope, here it is in writing. That makes it real. You know?
Right. Yeah. And it's true. It's what you want to believe. And the mind is so powerful. You know, you guys were saying it before. Your mind can play so many tricks on you, and you know it's just like the story of, you know, when people watch especially when you're younger, you went to a movie and you saw a scary movie or a late night movie that was really creepy. Well, all of a sudden you turn that off, and every little thing, you start seeing shadows in your house. You start hearing things. You're like, oh my God, what the fuck was that? Because you just got done watching a scary movie, and your mind just starts playing tricks on you, and it's quite crazy how that can happen.
Plus, just that power of suggestion, man. Like you ever watch the videos where you'll read a word and then you'll hear something and it'll sound like it said that word, and then the same sound you'll read another word and it sounds like it said the different word.
Right.
You guys know what I'm talking about or no?
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, we did that with
you can make things like
EVP.
sound like anything.
You mean?
Yeah.
You mean the videos
like,
John posted, right?
Oh, I don't know.
The ones with the ghosts, hearing the voices?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't specifically talking about those, but yeah, that's actually a great example. Because if you hear it, you're like, that just sounds like a fucking mess. But then when they put the words, I mean, I still think it sounds like a mess, but when you put the words, you're like, I could kind of hear it.
Right.
That's just because you want it. You want to, you know? Now, the lady seeing Jesus in the bread and sell it on eBay, that's a whole nother story.
The Dorito.
Yeah, like
Shit
all
like
that. Didn't we talk about that stuff before? Like finding images in food? I don't know. Anyway, who else has something?
Gary, you got anything today?
Yeah, I got a good one.
All right, let's hear it.
There's some photos involved with it, but I don't think they're necessary. So this ended up happening pretty local. So John, like you would have driven past. I drove you past one of these places, and you didn't know where this ended up happening. But the story's called, at the time, it went through the newspapers as Babes in the Wood.
Hey, Gary, real quick.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I was going to say for a second there you were like drifting off. I don't know if you can get closer in there.
I should be good. Yeah, so when this happened in like 1934, it went by Babes in the Wood to all the newspapers. So this ended up being a national case. So one day along the kind of by Carlisle, outside of, a little bit outside of Hershey, 3 girls were found beside the woods. along this kind of road, wrapped in this blanket. So and they couldn't identify them, so they called them, the babes in the woods. So it turned into this national search of these 3 missing girls and why they couldn't find them. So the pictures went in the newspaper. The state police had taken them like pictures after they moved them to kind of try to show their faces to identify them. And they snapped these photos, and these photos were on the front page of every newspaper in the country. And they couldn't really find out what was going on. And by Monday, they had hoped that if they did a head count in schools, they could find like where these 3 girls had come from. So they tried that, and like nobody was like missing in the country. So they didn't know. So it was a body of an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and like a 12-year-old girl. And it's like, how do 3 girls just go missing? Well, at the same time, here in Duncansville, they had a pair of bodies show up in a train car. And at first they didn't think they were related, but it ends up being related. The whole tale is pretty twisted and all over the place. I'm not really sure how the best way to get into this is. But so they dumped the bodies in like outside of like Carlisle, and then they were pulled from a train car here as their claims. But what's weird about it is this guy, Elmo Noakes, I guess is his name, and this Winfred Pierce. She was 18 and he was older. They pulled their bodies out. So they were Elmo worked in California at a farm picking place. And Winfred was from like the middle of Utah. And these two, he sold everything they had and bought a car for $46 and drove it to Pennsylvania. And at the time, he was working at his farm picking company and made $25 a week. And it was owed 2 weeks back salary and didn't go pick it up. So they drive at a high rate of speed. So this happened in like November 24th. So they're saying when they bought the car, it was like less than like 7 days between the two, and it was like a 3,600-mile trip. And back then, the interstates weren't really developed and stuff like that. So they would have had to like beat feet to get from California to the middle of Pennsylvania. And you're traveling with an 18-year-old woman and then like 3 girls, and it's like in the 30s when everything's like depressed. I don't know. There's a lot of theories around this, and I'm sure I'm skipping stuff and not making sense. But they can't figure out why he left, why he drove to Pennsylvania, what the hurry was, how the girls died. There was never actually an official cause of that. They did an autopsy, and it determined they hadn't eaten in 18 or 24 hours. They guessed they were suffocated, but from the photos you can see that they were like all punched, either like up in the nose or like something was like inserted into their nose.
Wow.
They don't know how they died. The car was found abandoned the other direction from the bodies and like the train. They have no idea how they got on the train. So they sold all their belongings to get there. And so at some point, like after the girls had separated from this Elmo Noakes and then like his niece, which he may or may not have been having an affair with, which was named Wilfred, Elmo sold Winfred's coat, like their last item that wasn't the rest of the clothes on their back, for like $2.85, and bought a .22 rifle for like $2.55 from a pawn shop in Altoona. And then apparently, I guess on the train, this was like a rifle. Somehow, they're claiming that like he held her breast out of her like dress or something, and shot her through her like left breast into her heart, and then committed suicide on the train with a .22 rifle. Well, I don't know how he'd reach the end of the rifle and like shoot her through the heart straight, and then kill himself, and then do this all on a train and have nobody hear it.
Yeah, I'm reading here. It says on November 24th, 1934, John Clark and Clark Jardine found the body. It's kind of weird. Found the bodies of Norma Sedgwick, DeWilla Noakes, and Cordella Noakes.
Those are the kids.
Yeah, under a blanket in the woods along the Pennsylvania Route 233 and Centerville Road. They had been suffocated presumably by Elmo Noakes, father of Dewilla and Cordella, and stepfather of Norma. The next day, Elmo shot and killed his 18-year-old niece, Winifred Pierce, and then himself with a .22 rifle. Let's see here. It's also saying that conspiracy or competing theories is saying that they believe that this speculation has included a cult killing due to a sign or a mystic symbol found on the head of Norma Sedgwick, but other experts believed it was a head wound. Also, Chief of Police E.E. York of Roseville, California, believed that Elmo Noakes did not kill the girls because of his affection for the children was known all over the community. He believed the automobile exhaust accidentally killed them. Then Noakes and Pierce, stricken with fear of being held responsible, committed suicide.
Well, so there's a lot of theories with like gang killings or like cult stuff. So there's claims at the time that the police were doing something with the girls' bodies and like hid that symbol off of her eye. So if you look up the famous photo of like the three of them kind of on the ground that circulated in the newspapers, their faces are like bloodied and stuff like that. Again, like something was like jammed up their nose or there was something going on. And there's claims that things were doctored or like they had like did something to her head to remove the symbol. While they were still they couldn't identify the girls. After a few days, they did death masks of to help identify them because the bodies were decaying. And in the death masks, this thing on one of the girls' foreheads was like removed. So it's not in the death mask. And the oldest girl mother was Mary Isabel Hayford. She was she had the kid to a former marriage that wasn't from Elmo Norma. So she died 2 years before all this happened from sepsis from a claimed botched attempted abortion. But she died in Salt Lake City, Utah, and they were living in California. They didn't have a car. What's she doing like a 3 days trip away from home having a self-abortion?
Couldn't get it done at her hometown.
She couldn't get it done there either. It was all illegal. But so apparently she like did it herself. This was the claims. Like officially on the death reports, like she was jamming something up her hoo-ha there, and like she ended up getting sepsis. But like they're thinking it was somehow related to a cult stuff because apparently they were making this trip a lot from California up to like Utah, and they didn't have a car. So there's a lot of issues with cult stuff that was just removed. At the time, nobody gave a shit, and it was just like, oh, this evidence doesn't fit our narrative, and we're just going to, skew this thing. So now we're looking at a story 85 years after it happened. It's so hard to identify what was true or what happened or what was hearsay.
Yeah, I got a question, Gary. And I might have missed it, how did, when they found the girls, and especially this was so long ago when this happened, how did they make the connection between the girls and the two bodies found in the train? I mean, how did they...
So at first they were sure... All the state police and stuff were involved in this, and they were sure that they didn't have. The bodies were found at about the same time because the girls were wrapped up in a blanket along the road, and then the train it just happens to be whenever whoever's walking through the train, right? Mm-hmm. So the bodies had been out for a day or two before they found them, and they thought for sure they couldn't be connected because they're over like 100 miles apart. They're like 120 miles apart.
Right.
Well, so the girls. Along with the bloody face, a bunch of their stuff was like missing, but they had most of their like belongings like a black bag, and anything that had like identifying names, like ripped off. So their clothes tags were all ripped. Like they kept their clothes on. They weren't like sexually assaulted or anything, but like all like the manufacturers' names and stuff were ripped off, and all their name tags and stuff were ripped off. In one book, they found a page that wasn't ripped correctly, and it had the first name Norma, written on inside. So that was the oldest girl's first name. Mm-hmm. The guy, the man, Elmo, on his shirt, it had a tag from a store for California. So they start looking at him out in California, and eventually it comes up that he should have 3 daughters, and one of them is named Norma, and I guess from there it got pieced together. But this was, over a few months. Because again, I don't know why that's the other thing. The school thing, he had them not in school or something. So like that's why they tried a national search of like they did a head count on every school to see there's 3 girls missing. Where are the girls at? And like that didn't turn up anything because he had told like Utah they're in school in California. He told California they're in school in like Utah, and they weren't going to school. Wow. Like his previous wife died from like a self-abortion that wasn't real. Like there's just a bunch of questions that don't add up, and they didn't really give a shit at the time to solve them. And afterwards, like a few months before they left, Elmo, the guy, bought an insurance policy for all 3 daughters and put it in Wilfred Pierce's mother's name. So that'd be his aunt's name or something like that, or like her mother. Like he was her uncle. And after all this happened, Elmo's 2 sisters came out and claimed that Wilfred Pierce was a giant manipulative liar who had a big criminal past and had a lot of connections. And they argued this in court so much that like this was brought in between like a judge in California. And they raised so much hell that they were both given 90-day sentences for disturbing the peace in the courtroom. Claiming like, Winfred was involved in this and like he orchestrated it, and like she had her daughter like sexually controlling like Elmo.
Well, I mean, right there. That kind of writes the story right there. I mean, he bought an insurance policy. You said on all 3 daughters, right?
Right, like months before this happened, and then put it in her mother.
So
yeah, like
there. I mean, right there. That's
name, who was like a live-in nanny. Right, you think so?
Which would take
but
suspicion
like, then
off himself.
Why would he sell all of his
awry.
Stuff?
There's
Right, but they can't even figure out like that.
Probably
there is a delay. They can't. Go ahead, Dan.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say that you're right. I see what you're saying. Maybe, it's one of those things like, you guys were talking about earlier when I was driving home. I heard you say about, people disappearing and not wanting to be found. And that could have been his way of getting rid of everything. I'm going to kill my daughters, get all the money, and I'll start a new life as under a new name, under a new life with a different name and a different identity.
Yeah. What's weird too is like people still think that they can get away with that. But like this happened in the 30s.
Right.
Right. And so it's like, there's no way that if it didn't work in 1930, it's not going to work today. But yet people still will go and try for this.
Right. It's
sure.
It's just like the ghost. Like they want to believe it'll work, and they just fool themselves into thinking, like psychologically, that it'll work out. Yeah. But what I don't get with this story is like he sold all his belongings and stuff like that, and he got something like $55. He bought a car for $46, and then he drives like a bat out of hell across the country to Pennsylvania, leaving 2 weeks' pay that was $50 at the time, right? Like he sold all his shit and didn't even, like that was about his 2 weeks' pay and didn't even collect his pay. Then he drives to Pennsylvania and in his claim to suffocate them. And then he sells his coat, which is the last thing, and like there's no mention of what happened to the car. I mean, it was found abandoned, but they don't know how that happens. And he buys a rifle, and then he shoots his niece and himself. And like, why would you drive across the country if you're going to kill your daughters for the insurance money? Why would you kill?
That's true.
The person's daughter do it in your that was involved in it with it, right?
Well,
like,
I mean,
that's her daughter. The whole thing is like, there's so many things that don't add up.
But you make the reason he may have done it is because in his mind he probably thought that if he was far enough away from home, nobody would really think that nobody's going to know who he is, and so. The time it takes to, nowadays you have the internet, and so everything is kept in databases and you can gather information quickly. I mean, by the time that this was all pieced and put together, it may have taken weeks to kind of just get all the details and the story uncovered. So in his eyes, or in his mind, he's thinking, okay, well, I'm far enough away from home that in order for them to put all this together, by the time they do, I'm going to be long gone and no one's going to be able to find me.
I think go ahead, Buddha.
I was going to say, to me, the fact that he left his pay and just kind of rolled out, that tells me he didn't plan on, like, it sounds like this was going to be a one-way trip. Like, he knew at the end of the day he was going to kill himself.
What could be, but why halfway across the country? And then it's like, again, she had some type of satanic or gang symbol or something like carved into her forehead or something like that. And I'm not pointing fingers anywhere. It's just there's parts of the story that don't completely add up or seem weird.
Well, okay, so then take a step back. You're trying to understand all of these things happening with a logical mind when this dude's clearly out of his fucking mind. That's the other thing. None of those things are going to make sense to you because you're thinking clearly.
I guess so.
Like if this dude's wrapped up in some, if he was wrapped up in some type of satanic or occult something, clearly was nuts. He shot somebody through the titty. Maybe that's what it was all about. Yes, John.
Right.
But no, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just a bizarre collection of things.
Well, the thing that I wonder about it though too is like, people usually conniving, manipulating scumbags and assholes like this, that especially when they go and plan, if he was planning a big thing like this, committing suicide is usually not in their vocabulary unless they got the cops right at their doorstep and they're going to get caught. I mean, I could see them committing suicide then, but just to commit suicide after planning a whole thing like that, I guess would seem kind of strange. So it does make you think that something else happened. Did he really commit suicide?
Well, if they didn't find, if on his shirt tag, they missed the tag that said it was made like somewhere in California. If they didn't find that, they might not have ever identified the girls, right? So it's like it was his suicide that weeks later that they used to identify them. So it wasn't like anybody was on his tail and anybody knew about what was going on. So like why he killed himself is a big mystery. What was he doing up there was a mystery. Like why was he in town? Like and then he was a former Marine and everybody in town where he lived and this fruit company he worked for said he was a loving father and very caring. His previous wife had died and like he was, paying for his nieces to be a living nanny and stuff like that, and it seemed to be a loving father who cared about his kids and the family. But sometimes the people that outwardly seem the happiest or most attentive or have the biggest demons or whatever. But so it was a surprise to people in town. I don't know, just very weird all around.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
I think so. It is definitely a weird story.
It's working on my behalf.
Dan, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
No.
Well,
sorry.
We'll talk to Satan over here.
Yeah.
How you doing, Satan?
Oh, pretty good.
The only thing I was going to talk about.
It's hot up on Earth, so I've been hanging out up here lately. It's like 91
Oh, it's cooler in hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also sent flies over to mess with Buddha today.
Make him wear pants like a bitch.
Yeah. How'd you like me wearing those pants, Buddha?
It's fucking soupy.
Yeah. That was all me.
All right, enough Satan.
Now, I was going to say, I obviously going forward, when I do come back in September or whatever, I was, me and John and Buddha talked about doing the car thing where I, talk about the auto industry and bring in, yes.
It's your theme song.
That's fine.
Do a montage of just pictures of you like they do at the beginning of Rockford.
Oh, I love it. Go ahead and do it, man. That's fine. Anyway, but I can talk about something that is 100% off subject of anything we were talking about tonight. But it's not really a story. It's just something about cars, But I don't know if you want me to do that or not, or if you want to just, as you say, land the plane.
Well, we got about 10. It's 10 o'clock. Is 6 minutes away. Buddha, do you want to save these pictures for next week? Or did you want to
yeah, that's fine.
Or did you want to hit on
It's like
today?
super, super quick. We could just talk about it next week.
Okay, we'll punt until next week. Dan, what do you got?
Well, this was just going to being regarded the basically navigation systems in cars. And this is obviously more of a technology thing, really, to talk about. We have navigation systems everywhere now. You got them on your smartphones. Most cars nowadays have navigation systems. It just kind of go back to where they started. You know, back in the 80s, actually. And I apologize. I wasn't even expecting to be on tonight, so I would have looked up a lot more on this. This is a story I do want to do at some point. But my first car that I had that had a navigation system was the silver Cadillac DTS I had. And compared to just how we talk about how technology has just increased so much in the last 15, 20 years, I had a CD-ROM navigation system in my car. And yeah, and I know you'll get a kick out of this, Gary, because it had 12 CD-ROMs, and it was so primitive compared to today's standards. If you actually left the region, you actually had to get out of your car, stop your car, and load another CD-ROM into the trunk of the car. You couldn't even do it in the car. The CD-ROM processor was in the trunk.
Well, how many disc changer did you have?
Well, no, it was only one disc for the CD-ROM.
Oh, yeah.
So you literally had to, if you like left Ohio and went into West Virginia, you had to pull the car over, pop that CD-ROM out of the trunk, put the new CD-ROM in for the new region. And the graphics, it had about I would say maybe a 3.8-inch screen in the middle of the dash. Now compare that to today's cars.
What now is 7 inches is standard.
Oh God,
6.5 cut.
Is standard.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Well, I knew that was coming. Oh man. Anyway, but yeah, so the you fucking asshole, man. You had to throw me off of my conversation. Exactly, it's a car crash now. Anyway, so yeah, like 9, 10. All right, dickheads. So it's like 10.9.5 inch.
He can't get through it tonight.
Woo! That's a welcome back here. Anyway, yeah, so about 9 inches about average right now. And thanks, Buddha. I really thank you, Buddha. You really had to fucking say that.
I literally have done nothing this entire segment. Why are you blaming me?
Until I start my story, and then you have to say 6.5 cut. Has there been a case of the hand going for the...
All right, well, if John would fucking knock it off with the sound effects.
I didn't realize I realized I had that.
Has there been a case of the hand going for... Wow. Well,
I forgot.
There goes my story.
All right.
But let me sum it up. Car navigation technology has gotten better. The end.
Yeah. There you go.
See you
Thanks,
next
Buddha.
week.
Yeah, anyway, but basically that was what Buddha said is that in a nutshell. I mean, then we went to DVD-ROM, where it was put on one disc. You know, graphics got better, obviously. Then, of course, we moved on to nowadays where everything is basically in the system. It's all built right in, and you update it with a flash drive. Or you go to your dealership and send an update to it to update the maps.
My car downloads straight from the satellite. I get updates sent to my car via satellite.
Now, on your navigation system, do you? Because navigation systems, the car companies want you to spend the money to update that stuff, and they will usually charge anywhere from $80 to $150 to update your navigation. Your car's brand new. There's no navigation update available for it. As the cars get older, they want, like Chrysler, for example, they'll send you for a small price of $150, they'll send you a flash drive, but they'll give you free shipping. You know, that's great, right? A flash drive, how much does that actually fucking weigh?
Right.
But regardless, they'll send you a flash drive, and then you put the flash drive in, and it updates all the points of interest, all the, you know, everything in the navigation. It doesn't update the graphics, because the graphics are they're where they're at. They can't update the graphics.
Yeah.
But they update the roads and stuff like that.
You know, it's funny you should mention that. Like, I was just looking up now, like, are any new cars still sold with a CD player in it?
No. GM... Oh, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, like, This one's from AutoWeek.com. This is February 9th. If you haven't bought a new car in the last 10 years, you probably aren't familiar with the slightly unsettling fact that CD players are not exactly common anymore. Pop into a dealership and look through the windows of some cars, and you'll see what we're talking about. And then also another article from Forbes says that new recording industry the RIAA, I forget what that stands for, but it says CDs are all but dead and downloads are on life support. So, I mean, everything's streamed nowadays.
Yeah. It's funny, I thought you were going to actually say, just a couple weeks ago it was announced General Motors, the final CD players that were available in vehicles. They weren't even really their commercial vans, like the Sierra, GMC Sierra van. Those were the last final vehicles that were going to that have a CD player, and General Motors, as of 2021, they're pulling out the CD players. So no cars now will have a CD player, nothing.
Wow, that's crazy.
They were the holdout, I guess you want to call them.
Yeah, I'm looking here, some of the models that, a lot of these are all foreign cars that are still carrying them. I don't see anything on the, well, let's see. Okay, so Ford here, who still puts CDs and CD players in cars? The Mustang does, the Taurus, the Fusion, the Fiesta.
That's a very old article.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's an old article.
It's from November 2nd of 2020.
2020? Oh, I thought it would be a lot older than that because the Taurus and Fusion and all those cars are
discontinued.
But okay, yeah.
No? Yeah. Well,
yep.
I'm going with you, not this article. Yeah, this guy just.
But you're right.
To shut the fuck up.
All right. Buddha's had enough for tonight.
But yeah, it's crazy though how technology. But yeah, that was basically my story. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You done for tonight, Buddha?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are done.
Yeah. You're getting cranky on me, man.
You're allowed taking your pants off now.
Come on, Buddha.
What?
I'm not wearing pants.
Dog.
I didn't even say anything. Fuck you guys.
That's what I'm saying. You ain't saying nothing.
Well, what the fuck? You two are talking over each other. What the fuck do you want me to say? Chime in?
Yeah. Yeah. I want you to be.
Why you always got to poke the bear?
Would he do?
Oh man, I didn't think that we were going to go without hearing that.
Yeah, that's the first time I played it in a long time.
I know. Actually, I'm surprised.
Yeah. All right, let's close it out. Anybody got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well,
I'm good.
Gary, thanks again for giving us another Thursday night. Dan, welcome back as part of your sabbatical.
Thank you.
It was nice to hear your voice again. And Buddha, thanks
you.
for
It's fun to be back.
The constant co-pilot.
I'm wearing pants right now.
Are you?
Damn it.
Yeah, let it do. Time to air it out, man.
Does it count if I roll up the pant legs?
Oh, that makes it worse. That means effort was put into like not taking them off.
Yeah.
More effort.
Yeah. We've expelled energy. It's all right. Time to close this out. All right. Well, we'll tune in next week or on the replay, whatever you choose. For Dan Rady, Steve Gibson, Rob Tagg, Gary Nadel, Nick Riddle, Natalie Gibson, Robert Dubucash, Alex Manzinski, Joe Berry, Jason Markovitz, Joseph Dickey, Michael Polio. From the Mistake on the Lake in the deep, great American Rust Belt. This is T3TV. Say goodnight, Buddha.
Good night, Buddha.